Thank you guys so much for clicking on this. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. We really appreciate it. This podcast is going to attempt to have 6 people, myself and 5 others. So we're going to jump right in. We have a lot to talk about. One thing that I think is unique and interesting is that at this time last year, all of these people were strangers to me, and now I'm doing a podcast with them, which I think is really interesting and really neat. And part of the reason for that is my first guest, Miss Linda Dooley. Linda, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for doing this.
Thanks for being the magnet.
Do you want to give folks at home maybe a little blurb about the Dooley leadership experience and how it is that these group of people came to meet and what that program is?
Sure. I am Linda Dooley, and I'm the president of Dooley & Company, which is a business managed consultancy. But the other hat that I truly cherish is being the founder and president of the Dooley Leadership Experience. And since 2008, the Dooley Leadership Experience has been committed to advancing rising leaders and also economic vitality through premier leadership development, professional development, tremendous learning and networking opportunities. And while we have year-round programming, and since the last 5 weeks we've gone virtual, so we can enable really a nationwide and beyond community to participate, really the linchpin of the program has been an immersive retreat. It's a 3-day retreat that has been based since 2008 in the Berkshires. And each one of the voices that you'll hear today have all been part of that very selective and transformative experience. They earned a seat. They were one of 45 earning a seat to an experience that brought them together physically. That was a wonderful time. Remember that, folks, when we could get together physically? But strangers becoming in 3 days incredibly fast friends, and most importantly, continuing learning and networking relationships after. And so the experience of making it to the workshop, the retreat, but also going through high stages of vulnerability that the learning process takes you through, and then high stages of connectivity that keeps bonds going on forever. So we all, and I include myself as someone who has founded it and is a speaker, but every one of the speakers as well as the participants who earned a seat become a collective community. And this is part of the collective community we're going to bring you today.
We're going to do our best. So with that, I will maybe introduce the rest of the folks we have on here. We have with us Marcus Coleman. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us. Can you hear me there, Marcus?
Thank you for having me. Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. We have Shannon Ashcroft. Thanks for being here, Shannon.
Really excited to spend this time with you guys.
Thank you. We have Sophia, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. Romero?
Romeo. Really
Romeo.
close.
Okay.
Thank you
I'll get it
for
before the end. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to participate in this conversation today.
And we also have Jesse Knoll joining us from New York City. So thank you for doing this.
Hello. Yeah, of course. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, and this is also our first attempt at doing this digitally. Any ones I've done before have been in person. Obviously, we've all had to make some changes with the circumstances going on. I'm sure if you're listening, your life has been affected one way or another. My name is Steve Rogers. I did the Dooley Leadership Experience last year in November of 2019. That's how I met all of these people. I currently work for Pittsfield Cooperative Bank, and I'm a branch manager over there. But this is a hobby that I've kind of picked up on the side, and it's important to me to chat with more people, to have more interesting conversations, to make better connections too. I think it gives you an opportunity to just talk to interesting people. One thing I also wanted to touch on, this group of people was right away wanting to also try to focus on the positives of the event. So we're going to touch quickly on some of the adversities that people have had to deal with and some of the challenges, but we also want to, we don't want this to be all doom and gloom. We know folks at home have a lot on their plates, and I'm sure they have a lot on their minds as well. And so we're going to do our best to kind of keep it with what we can do, and hopefully there's some relatability to folks out there listening. So Linda, with somebody that relies so strongly on networking, someone who relies so strongly on human connection, what changes are you making and what challenges have you had during all this?
Oh boy, someone who thrives on it. I have learned a lot and probably gotten a lot stronger by getting out of my comfort zone, which was having a lot of in-person connections to get me juiced up during the day and through the day. My life has changed significantly in that a screen as opposed to a human being is in front of me most of the time these days. And I've learned how to cross technological hurdles that I deliberately avoided before. Can't do that anymore. But I've also realized that there is an incredible blessing that has come through this new world of social isolation. And it is the ability, thank gosh for, thank God we have technology, the ability to bring together a very dispersed group of individuals. And I'm going to focus first on the dual leadership experience, and then I'll tell you about things I've been doing in my personal life. But being able to unite people who really physically couldn't, because we're based in the Berkshires, and you see that most of us, with the exception of Jesse right now, is in the Berkshires, even though we're social isolating, but connecting this incredible community that has not been quite so active because they couldn't come to a workshop that we've been having, come to our Friday breakfast club at Otto's, which is a great little breakfast spot in Pittsfield, but they can now. And because we've made these virtual programming. So shifting to pretty much right now, 100% virtual programming is a massive leap that we've taken on. What we've seen is incrementally by the week, it has just become an incredible positive experience, not just uplifting. We all need it because it brings instant connections for all of us. But we're really learning from each other, and we're learning about a universal topic that's affecting every one of us. What are you doing to first cope, but what's changing and what are you going to be adapting perhaps in your new life as we unfold out of this? And so technology has become a permanent part right now and will continue to be a permanent part whenever we come out of this COVID crisis of the dual leadership experience, because of our ability to bring in so many different voices and views from disparate locations. And getting out of our regional mindset and going global is a true learning and networking gift. So that's been one profound difference that this new world has had. The other one is I used to be able to walk into a coffee shop here, popular coffee shop here, and within 5 or 10 minutes, run into people who will introduce me to someone either live or say, I'm going to connect you right away after I leave, get you in the car, I'm going to call somebody, you got to meet somebody. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. So I have made a commitment every day to spend 1 hour on LinkedIn and meeting at least 10 different new people, and they tend to be people through secondary connections, not primary connections, but secondary connections, where I'm actually spending time really reading about people's backgrounds, something unique, something maybe I can personally learn more from about, or something that could be an asset in our programming in the dual leadership experience. And it has been extraordinary. And I have a pretty cool story in that 24 hours ago, I connected with a fellow who happens to be a business leader in Lockheed Martin in Fort Worth. And the only way we got connected is I happened to see a photo that somebody I didn't know that at another Lockheed business had posted, joking about how he was now using his daughter's Pottery Barn kids desk as his new office. And I responded to the photo and I said, good for you. His name's Brian. I said, good for you, Brian. I mean, the true thing right now is this has become the ultimate equalizer of level and hierarchy. And, in your title and rank, everything goes away. Working at Pottery Barn desk for kids. That's great. So about 8 hours later, I got a request from someone who I didn't know. His name's Evan. And Evan said, yeah, I know Brian. And I'm thinking, Brian, the Brian I just met. Evan and I connected, and he happens to be also a Lockheed employee, but he's in Fort Worth. He's also written 4 books. He's publishing his 5th in a month. And we wound up getting sick of LinkedIn messaging, and that we had a conversation yesterday. And he said his first 10 years as a software engineer in aerospace, he was making systems for the Zumwalt class of destroyers. And Admiral Zumwalt's daughter happens to be a friend of mine. And during the course of our conversation, he said, you know, my only sad thing is I loved what I did, but I never ever got to see it actually on one of the ships. So I said, could you send me, did you ever get to get near one? And he got a photo near one of them, but he never got on it. So I said, send me that photo. And this morning I connected him with Ann Zumwalt, who's the daughter of the admiral that this whole fleet of destroyers is named for. So who would have imagined that, making that connection? And I mean, I can tell you that will be a lifetime memory for both of them, but that wouldn't have happened before. It's forcing a little bit more research, taking time to really get to know somebody by having to read about them first.
So is that maybe like a silver lining too? Is there an increase of accessibility during all this, and that people are just going to have to accept digital communication as a norm for a period of time?
Well, you know, right now, because people are home, there's a very high degree of receptivity reaching out to somebody. And in the case of Evan, I said, can we get a conversation? And it was, yeah, I actually have time. You know, I'm here in my house actually to have the conversation with us. He was sitting in his car in his driveway because he doesn't have any office space yet, and he's going to move a desk in his garage. It's kind of, here we are having this call, and it's kind of like a business call. So yeah, I mean, I think people that maybe, you know, before all this would have not necessarily been craving a phone call, and because we would have been multitasking in so many different ways, and now we're still multitasking, but the sensory deprivation has made our world a lot smaller. I think there's a higher receptivity, and I am hoping that continues post-COVID, that we are all wanting connections. That's what we're getting juiced. I call it juiced up. Every day I do get juiced up through these connections. And I think that maybe we realized how really important that interpersonal skill of conversation is in our lives. And I hope we crave it, and I hope we continue to work it going forward.
That might be a really good segue over to Shannon too. Speaking of transitions to digital, Shannon is the owner of Radiance Yoga in Pittsfield, and she's had to make some pretty substantial changes to her business. Shannon, do you want to maybe clue some folks in into some of the circumstances that you've had to go through with your business?
Yes, I'd love to. And first, too, I'll just piggyback on Linda and agree that there has just been so much more connection recently. And one experience I had this last week was a monthly women in business group that is typically very small. A couple other business owners and myself get together every month. And this was the first time that we had almost 15 people participate, because we were able to do so via Zoom. And I don't think that group and those women could have or would have ever connected if we weren't in this time. So I, just wanted to add on to Linda's experience with these new connections that otherwise we never would have come across is really cool. But yeah, so like Steve said, I own Radiance Yoga in Pittsfield, and also own Ashcroft Workplace Wellness. They both kind of complement each other, but operate completely separately. So, first I will say, for any business owners on here, we are navigating so many challenges right now. I don't think I even have to tell everyone that these are very scary and very uncertain times for small business owners. We're trying to navigate this stimulus package, which, at least for me, is still kind of a disaster. New scrappy ways, if it's even possible, online, even But, to turn this positive, what I'll say is this is not the time to go dark. Your customers, no matter what business you have, you've built a community, and customers want to hear from you. So despite whatever challenges you're going through, I know that myself, I'm excited by these opportunities to improve my business and build new things for my business that I otherwise wouldn't have had time to work on. And I do feel my best when I'm able to focus on what I can control. So there's so much right now that we cannot control, but my anxiety quiets the moment that I get into a little bit of action on something new. So yeah, I think a lot of people have probably seen or heard of a lot of yoga classes going on online right now. So I'm sure everybody has already taken that guess that that's what Radiance Yoga is doing. So we began with basically a Peloton or Netflix-like subscription. We built this really quickly. It's a software on your computer or your tablet or your phone where our students can go in and search for the type of class they're taking. And, whether they have 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, they find the perfect class. And they get to do these classes with their own time. It's flexible, it's convenient, which is something that you don't typically get when you're just trying to make it to the studio to take a class. And I will say that having an app or a system like this was, in the back of my mind, I had always dreamed that I would someday grow to this point where I could have something like this. But I will say that I never thought or imagined that life would slow down enough for me to dive into a project this big. So in just, 1 week after we closed our studio, the on-demand platform launched, and it, people have been wanting to support our studio, even though at first we only had a few classes up there. So the community support has been amazing. And beyond COVID-19, this app isn't going to stop for us. This is going to be something that's added value to our studio. Our members and our students will be able to access their favorite teachers, whether they're on vacation, whether there's a snowstorm, whether they're across the country, whatever it is, it's going to be really cool. So I'm really excited about that. And we did just make another pivot because we are hearing from a lot of our community that they're craving a schedule. This is not something as an entrepreneur that I understand because I hate schedules, but I heard from some people that they wanted some normalcy and they wanted to see each other. So, just like us on this podcast right now, we're looking at each other and speaking to each other. Now our studio community is, and even people who are from across the country are joining classes live and looking at who they're practicing with and getting that human connection that they were craving. And something really positive about that is our studio capacity is 25, but we've been having 30 plus people in some of these yoga classes on Zoom, and that's not even possible when we're physically gathering, which is pretty awesome. And our teachers really came together and wanted to offer a pay what you can model. So, the teachers are financially impacted right now, but they still want to serve our community because we know everybody needs this. So we're focused on serving first, and people can show up to class for free, or they can choose to pay $5 or $10. It's just whatever they can offer or whatever they can't. We just want them there, and we want everybody together. So yeah, lastly, I'll just add that all these resources online are also helping my workplace wellness business. I'm building a lot of resources that will be used for a long time, and some of my companies that I've always worked with are benefiting from having free access to the on-demand platform for their employees to enjoy. So there's just a lot of crossover. I think I could continue to go on all day about, what I see as silver linings right now. But, again, I'll just say there are so many challenges, but if you can shift your perspective to find a silver lining right now, no matter if you're a business owner or not, there's something you can improve, or there's something new you can build, or there's more time now that you can rest. So, this isn't a time where we just think life pauses and we don't get anything out of it. I say we search for the silver linings, and we come out of this way stronger than we were when we went in.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. If anybody wants to come be bad at yoga with me, I'm gonna try to navigate the online portal. My only experience with yoga was at the DLE, but it seems like a good thing to do. It seems silly to not do it. It's just good for longevity and good for a number of different reasons. And it can, if I'm being honest, it can be like a little intimidating walking into a yoga studio also as someone that has no experience. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna make a fool of myself. And now that it's online, I can be like, all right, well, I'm in my living room, so now it's only my wife laughing at me if I try.
I think more people are gonna come, and they're gonna try yoga now because maybe they were afraid to walk into Radiance before. So I'm also seeing maybe we're gonna have a bunch of new people walking into the studio after this because they were able to get started in the comfort of their homes. It's really cool.
I think so too.
Yeah, Shannon, I feel like you're gonna have so many people join your yoga community. I know for me, like, I have been doing yoga every day since I've gone into social distancing, and it has been probably one of the best decisions I've made because it's just so relaxing. You feel like you're getting some sort of activity, and it helps you kind of control your emotions a little bit better, which I think is, really important during this time because of just like how crazy everything is going. So I think you'll have a lot of people coming in.
Right. There's a lot of people who are starting to think like, well, a lot of stuff is wrong right now. Why not just try yoga? So maybe they'll get addicted.
You wanted to add something there, Linda?
Yeah, Shannon brought up a really good point. So our events, like Shannon's studio, could accommodate only so many people. And now that the physical boundaries, seats, number of tables, number of seats is gone, we have more than doubled, actually almost tripled the number of people that are now engaged in our Friday morning breakfast chats or our Friday morning breakfast club or our culture chats, because we're not constrained by the logistics anymore. And that's been freeing. It's also been incredibly surprising because we don't know who's going to show up. Either, in the case we have a lot of people that jump on. So we get a lot of really great surprises while we are vastly increasing the amount of people who can take part in our programming. And that is a huge silver lining.
So
Actually, I wanted to jump in with this kind of idea of programming. I think that it's been interesting to see the business owners and the organizations that have not shut down, that have continued to push themselves and adapt and serve the community and giving. I mean, I'm always at home, but now I have activities, and I just did air quotes, activities to look forward to that help me schedule my day because I'm gonna do this yoga class, I'm gonna go to this breakfast club. So it's also kind of keeping, I wouldn't necessarily say like a sense of normalcy because these are not normal times, but a sense of kind of collective community.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and why not use the time to try something new? If you do find yourself with free time, be it as a result of quarantine or this or whatever other reason, you have to, you only get to choose what you do with the time you're given. That's pretty much the only choice you can make. So what other activities are you guys doing besides yoga to stay sane during this?
Erging. I'm a rower, and I have now been spending a lot of time on an erg because unfortunately in the Berkshires, water temperature and air temperature, particularly yesterday we had snow, don't permit getting on water right yet. So erging, biking, lifting in the basement. My husband did buy me a packet to Shannon's programming online and studio when it opens, and she knows I suffer from the chatterbox head. So she's got a big challenge on her hands to help me get comfortable with yoga. I learned that too at the November DLE retreat. But I realize all of this has made it even more important that you have to build that time in. It's very easy to get sloppy, and that routine. I'm an hour later than when I usually work out. That's not acceptable because I will go back to my early morning routine. But that concept of routine is something that has become even more important, I've realized.
Yeah, I would, to your point, Linda, about a routine, I committed to myself, I think like the beginning of last week, where I will not look at my phone and I will not look at my computer until I've taken at least a 15-minute walk outside around my block or in the woods, because I feel more than ever drawn to be in communication with people, to be behind a screen, on a phone, on a Zoom call, on my email. And I noticed that I was getting sucked in, and I was giving my time and attention to everybody else, trying to have some sort of connection, that I was losing connection with myself, and I wasn't nurturing myself. So that's something that I've committed to doing. Is actually, Shannon tagged me in a post and it said go outside, and ever since Shannon tagged me in that post, I've accepted the challenge and I've gone outside every day. So thank you, Shannon. That was helpful, and I've put it into my life, and I've noticed that it's helped me have a routine, it helped me block out my time, and helped me stay positive and get that vitamin D every day.
I totally agree. One, Sophia, with, I kind of felt all of a sudden like I was too connected. Like, oh my goodness, I need to get my time back. I need to take some control back and get back to work. But also for me, what's changed and what I've been doing in addition to yoga is being outside more. I mean, my dog is so tired. We go for 5 walks a day, but something I'll take with me after this is that I enjoy being outside. So if I can listen to a podcast while I walk instead of while I sit at my desk, that's what I'm going to do, moving forward from here. It's been really helpful.
Are you having challenges with that, Jesse, being where you are in the city? Like, is it difficult for you to, and obviously you can go to walk, but is it, different just being in a densely populated area?
Oh my goodness, it is so different being in a densely populated area. The nice thing is I live deep into Brooklyn, so I'm almost to like the suburbs in the borough, which is great because it almost feels like I'm back home in upstate New York and I'm not that homesick during this time. But it is really interesting being in just the New York City area right now, knowing that we're, the epicenter of the pandemic. I've been in hiding for a month now. That's what I call my practice of social distancing, because I think it's funny and makes it sound more mysterious. And I haven't stepped foot in the borough of Manhattan for a month. Like, I think today is actually the month marker of being in this situation, and I haven't spent any money on a Metro card, haven't gone really any further than a mile or two from my apartment, and it's really crazy. And I love it at the same time, because to Shannon's point, I've been out in nature more now than I think I have in years, because one of the things that I've incorporated into my routine is a daily walk where I go and listen to a podcast or listen to music, or I even use it as time to call family members. Every other day I call my mom and my aunt and just check up on them, because they're, upstate in Rochester. But I haven't had the chance to really get to see them since the holidays, because I was supposed to go home at the end of March, but that obviously changed. I think what's really interesting is, I've lived in the city for almost 4 years, and the only way I can describe the sound of the city is absolutely quiet. And that is not something that you normally hear. You're normally hearing the hustle and bustle. Even in Brooklyn, you just hear cars going, people out and about. There's a lot of, ambient noise just from the environment of the city. And you really don't hear that. And I don't think I've felt that eerie sense of quiet like since 2016, the day after the election, which we won't go down that route, but it was very quiet and very eerie after that election. And I haven't felt that similar sense of calmness and quiet and eeriness since then. So it's interesting. And I think the other thing is it's kind of weird because since there is barely any sound, the only thing that you hear right now, and I'm just thinking of it now because I can hear it even through my headphones, is you hear sirens. That's the only sound that I'm hearing now, because we're in the epicenter, people are being shipped to and from hospitals constantly, and it's really, really kind of weird. I think there's no other way of putting it except weird. But I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom. I know I've kind of been probably bringing everyone's mood down just now, but I would say that there is some, good to what's going on right now too. I see, when I do go for my daily walks, there's obviously other people who are out walking around, getting some sunshine as well, taking in some fresh air. And you can tell that everyone is actually like truly enjoying that little respite from their apartments. And I think this period of time has forced us out into nature and find ways to incorporate new things into our routines. And you see people really enjoying the little things, such as taking a walk. And, I hope coming out of this that people continue to spend more time outside, get out and, rather than be socializing in, a densely packed building, you're going out and having a picnic at a park or a day at the beach or something like that, especially because those are some of the places where we can't frequent right now, and people are yearning to get back to the beaches. And hopefully by summertime, we'll be able to go and spend some time by the water.
Mm.
Hey, Jesse, is it true? Have you heard the cheering and the singing every night at 7 o'clock?
I don't hear it, but I've seen a lot of videos. I have a lot of friends posting about it on like Instagram and Facebook every night. They'll actually turn on a live stream and show people doing their, nightly clapping. I think it's really, really positive, and it is definitely a rallying cry that New York is not gonna just succumb to this, that we're gonna get through it. And we have some amazing people in the healthcare industry who are risking their lives, but are doing really, truly miracle work right now, and making sure that for those of us who are lucky to not have been impacted by the coronavirus, that we're staying safe, but that the people who are battling it have access to as much resources as they can have to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that's a great segue too into Marcus, who just moved from a big city into a more rural location just before all this craziness. Marcus, you're from Philadelphia, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and you
Name is
decided
Mark.
to relocate?
Yeah, I decided to relocate. So just a step back, my first interaction with the Dooley leadership experience was back in 2016. I'm a Syracuse alum, just like Linda and Jesse on this podcast, and it was a great opportunity for me. I was medically disqualified from playing football. Had a great opportunity. I was selected by Linda, and it completely changed my life and my career trajectory. Fast forward 4 years later, through the network of the DLE, I got a great opportunity to join a wealth team associated with Raymond James. So I went from Philadelphia with a population of 5 million people to Berkshire County, where the entire county has 126,000. So even without the coronavirus, this was going to be a big transition for me. And just to second what Jesse was saying, the closest thing I had to wildlife in Philadelphia was pigeons and subway rats. So it was crazy. However, coming to the Berkshires, I feel like I'm kind of lucky because I moved up here March 2nd. 2 weeks later, the coronavirus is making a big impact on the economy in the United States. big cities like Philadelphia, New York City, they're at stay at home, confined to little apartments. And I move up here and I have the ability to go out into nature. So just in 1 week, well, 1 month, I've been hiking 13 times and I've been on the Appalachian Trail 3 times. I have never been hiking in my entire life. I never had an interest to go hiking. I think that was kind of scary. No point to go into the woods. And now I have a true enjoyment and passion for hiking now, and I'm looking forward to the future and going on different hiking trails in Massachusetts, Vermont, and Connecticut.
That's great. And I had no idea that that happened to you with the medical disqualification there. So you're kind of already had experience in having to try to find silver linings and figure out what to do when there's circumstances outside your control.
Yeah, I mean that's so true. Yeah, being medically disqualified was a tough time for me. Football was a big part of my life, and that was a big part of my identity. To lose that identity prematurely really put me in a tough position, but that's what goes back. It goes back to the DLE, the Dually Leadership Experience. She gave me the confidence to realize that my identity was greater than football, and I had more to give to society at large. And that's why I always thank Linda and do whatever I can to see the DLE grow.
Was that part of your motivation to move to the Berkshires?
Yeah. So moving to the Berkshires was definitely uh, a tough decision for me. Linda would tell you there's like 2 days before I'm sending her articles like there's 2 cases of coronavirus in Pittsfield. I don't know if this is the move to make, but having that support system like Linda and the entire DLE community was big because anybody would tell you, Jesse came from upstate New York 4 years ago. I made a decision to move to New York City. Having a support system is big when you're in a new environment, and that's another thing I was lucky to have was a big support system when I moved out here.
So you're gonna stick with it even out during all this craziness?
I think I'm finding a love for Royal America. I'm still kind of homesick from some real Philadelphia pizza and the cheesesteak, even though I don't eat steak anymore. I might have to get like a vegetarian cheesesteak when I get back.
Let's see if we can do like a Beyond Burger cheesesteak for you at some point.
Very true.
So what's everyone's thoughts on the future then? Like where do we see long-term changes coming from this? Do we think we're gonna what are you gonna keep even after all this is over? Like, obviously we're having to make changes temporarily. What's everyone gonna keep once all this is passed?
Uh, to jump in, I mean, it's Sophia here. I would say that one thing that's come to the surface every day more and more is a sense of gratitude. Every single day, not only am I grateful for my health and the health of my family, and if anyone's listening and you've been affected by this and your family members, I'm so sorry, and sending just good energy and good vibes out there. But this idea of a gratitude for a network of people, a gratitude for space and time to take this moment to stay positive and reflect on my own futures and my own goal. I mean, again, I did the DLE when I met everyone on this podcast back in November, and I've been speaking to Linda and really doing this hard work that I always said I didn't have time or space to do. And now I have this gift of time and space to take a hard look at myself and critique myself and be willing to listen to the feedback that sometimes I don't want to hear. But what else am I going to do right now besides maybe some classes with Shannon and listening to some music, walk into the woods? Like, why not? And I think what I'm going to take with myself is knowing that I'm not wasting this time that I have, knowing that I really did push forward and tried something new and embrace this deep state of collective, instead of being collectively anxious, collective humility, collective vulnerability, and raising the frequencies and sending that out into the world. And that's what I want to take with me from this entire experience.
That's awesome. And you started helping people learn Spanish, right? You
No. Yeah, and one thing actually during a breakfast chat 2 weeks ago, our uh, people in the community reached out to me. They're like, could we just do a once a week or something like a Spanish hour? And now I've given them homework, and we're getting together at some point on Tuesday or Thursday next week, and they're going to bring a bio about their life. And I'm bilingual and I'm not officially a trained teacher, but I'm happy to have this opportunity to share some of my gifts and talents and support members of my community as well. So it's very informal, but it's something to look forward to. It's really fun.
That's awesome. I think stuff like that's great. How about everybody else? What are you guys keeping?
I think it's actually kind of funny that Sophia brought up that she's teaching Spanish to people, because I'm picking up my German practice again. I used to speak German a lot during high school and was semi-fluent by the end of, my practice and experience. And since I have all this newfound free time, I downloaded Duolingo and I've been doing daily lessons, and, it's just refreshing my memory of the language, but also surprising me how much comes back so quickly. Like, I'm doing the lessons, I'm like, oh, I remember that word. I know what the sentence means. I know how to say that. And it was really cool. So that's definitely something I'm going to keep up. I think I'm also going to continue practicing gratitude, because that's definitely something that's keeping me through this time, and, enjoying just the present moment and being grateful for everything. But I think the one thing that I'm also going to just make sure to keep going is the friendships that I've built and grown so much in this moment. You would think that right now, by social distancing, we wouldn't be as connected to our friends, but we're more connected than ever. I mean, nothing will ever replace getting to hang out with people in person, but I think we'll have more willingness to communicate remotely with our friends who we haven't stayed in touch with because they're in a different state or a different city. I think we'll be more okay with random people jumping in with FaceTimes, and you're just going to have to answer it. We're not going to just communicate via text anymore. And I'm actually going to make time for my friends, because I think a lot of what I was doing in the past couple of years is, reaching out to my friends when I had the free time, but I wasn't making the time to actually have that ability to reach out to people. So I'm definitely going to stay connected with friends and everything. And then, I've picked up some new hobbies. I started drawing a couple weeks ago, and letting my creative juices flow has been wonderful. I'm definitely not super skilled with my drawing yet, so it's not something I'm like not going to go quit my job and become a full-time artist, because I definitely don't have that proficiency yet. But it's definitely something I want to keep making time for. And, I'm not doing anything super crazy, so it's work that I can do while I'm watching TV at night and keeping my mind going. So I think for me, that's kind of what I'm going to keep up for sure.
I couldn't agree with everybody more. I have said for myself, my entire life since a child, I've wanted to be a business owner. And now that I am one, it consumes me all the time. Except for in the last month, I've really had to slow down. And, the scary thing is I've had to picture, what is my life going to be if I'm no longer a business owner, which sounds doom and gloom and it sounds bad, but I actually think it's been an incredible opportunity for me to slow down and say, no, I have a mom. I need to call her. I have all these friends all over the country. I need to make time for them. I have a fiance, and I'm crossing my fingers because hopefully we're still getting married this year. So I've just had this opportunity to decide what is my identity outside of being a business owner, because if things go bad, I still need, I'm going to need to move forward and find a new way to be myself. So yeah, I think taking this time to be grateful rather than be consumed in the grind that we were in before is definitely something we can all benefit from.
And how about you, Linda? I know obviously you're not stopping. So what what are you keeping from all this? What's what lessons are you taking forward, and what's
The
important?
gratitude piece is one I love everyone amplifying it. And actually one of our DLE team members got me every morning by 7:30, we exchange one thing that we are grateful for. And she initiated this a couple weeks with me, and we make a point of doing that. And if you go back and you reflect, they're really, really small things. And I have a placard that in my office area that says less is more. And I think a reminder that less is more, because our world's got really less over this self-isolation time. Being able to go out and surround myself with a whole lot of activity and distractions and Jesse, the noise and all that, kind of keeps your mind away from a real focus on just some core elements that really do make you happy and hopefully fulfilled and grateful. And I realize that I need to keep that lesson is more in front of me, because how easy we get distracted.
Thank you for joining us for this installment of the DLE Own It podcast. The Dooley Leadership Experience is committed to providing vibrant learning and networking opportunities for career ownership and personal resilience. For details about our ownership workshops, breakfast club, and culture chat, go to www.dle.dooley.com/programs and gain valuable tips and connections for your professional and personal success from our DLE newsletter, The Hub. For your complimentary subscription, go to www.dle.dooley.com/hub.